Dumped over FaceTime after 8 months, I felt like a bad boyfriend for asking her to post our shepherd's pie dinner with my boyfriend instead of just chef my name. She confessed, "You're emotional, I'm logical," as her friends labeled me toxic. How did we end up here? Reading time 20-30 minutes. I will strive to be as objective as possible in this post as I explain the situation. It has made me question whether I am sane or the only rational person in this scenario, and I am genuinely left wondering if I am at fault or a bad person. It was the best relationship either of us has ever had, although we both recognized it was still toxic. We are both 25, now approaching 26. We met on Bumble while she was in my small town in the south helping her friend move in. She resides in a major city up north. We reflect each other, except that I prioritize logic while she prioritizes her emotions. We began our relationship as long distance. Initially, I would fly up to see her every other weekend, as well as on my days off, usually not exceeding 5 weeks apart. Our first date felt like a fairy tale, filled with immense chemistry and a kiss that seemed straight out of a movie. We would indulge in extravagant dates, buy things for one another, and enjoy ourselves immensely, making each other laugh frequently. We shared countless wonderful memories, including parades, trips to the aquarium, small outings, and more. She has many close male friends, but when I moved to her city and met them all, I realized they were strictly platonic, confirmed by the fact that she has known them for years and never prioritized their time over mine, rarely seeing them when I was around and never without me. On our first date, she indirectly bragged about having cheated on all her previous partners whenever they upset her. However, she claimed that she has changed and no longer does that. She told me about cheating on her last boyfriend of 3 months with her manager at that time, whom I will refer to as AN, and how she bragged about it to him until he overdosed on fentanyl. She has his date of death tattooed on her neck. This prompted me to ask to check her phone one evening while I was visiting, and she agreed. I found nothing concerning. I would ask to check her phone during each visit to ensure I was not deluding myself until I moved there, at which point she requested that I stop doing that, suggesting I should trust her, and I complied. I made what I believe is my only significant mistake in the relationship within the first month. We were walking down the sidewalk when a woman was evidently checking me out. Once she was out of earshot, I turned to my girlfriend and said, "That woman just gave me alluring eyes," blurting it out to initiate conversation without any ill intentions. She informed me that this behavior was manipulative, intended to inflate my worth, and I recognized this, leading her to establish a rule that I could not discuss other women in such a manner. She posted about me once on her social media, specifically on her Instagram story for National Boyfriend's Day, 3 months into the relationship. At that time, I flew her to Miami for a luxurious vacation, complete with a beautiful hotel, a cocktail yacht cruise featuring a sunset view of the skyline, a visit to the aquarium, excellent dining, and everything in between. A brief pause in the story. R is her longest-standing friend, someone she has known since kindergarten, but she has not seen her in 8 years since R joined the military and moved down south. R is 26. While we were in Miami during a meal at a nice restaurant, her friend R was experiencing a difficult time in her life. She had divorced her husband due to his alcoholism, and their beautiful home had been impacted by 2 hurricanes, rendering it uninhabitable, which meant she was essentially homeless while her children stayed with his parents. In the bathroom, she was discussing matters that I have no desire to detail on Reddit, self-harming in a bathtub and threatening to undertake horrific actions I had never heard someone talk about before. We remained at the table for 3 hours while I helped her de-escalate the situation. I assisted R during a suicide attempt, though apparently she is unaware of that. I constantly asked my girlfriend about R to ensure she was okay. While we were exchanging messages with R, I noticed she had stopped messaging someone named C 2 weeks ago, someone I did not recognize or know anything about. I asked her to go through the chat, and she showed me a message where she had sent C a "Hey with charm" filter photo with her tongue out and hearts while she was at a wedding to which she was invited before meeting me. She claimed she accidentally sent that to him and intended it for me, which I believed because she had been drunk and has severe ADHD, often mistakenly sending messages to the wrong people. However, she went along with it for a few weeks, sending him more pictures with hearts around her head, doing intimate things with him that we would do together, and appearing much more excited to talk to him than to me with many more emojis. I forgave her because I had not seen her for a while, and considering we were a month apart during the long-distance phase, I assumed she felt lonely. It took her another month or two to appear as excited to converse with me as she was with him. I asked her to block him, and she did so. She has not communicated with him since, and we have moved past it. I also noticed AN sent her an inappropriate photo and requested that she sleep with him, to which she responded with eye emojis stating, "I cannot. I am with someone I genuinely care about." She also blocked him. 4 months into our long-distance relationship, a similar situation arose when her friend from a previous job invited her out for sushi, claiming he was gay, so she decided to go with him. She expressed surprise upon discovering he was actually bisexual and considered it a date, but she still spoke with him for 5 hours before returning to her parents' house where she was staying, and I have proof of this. She kept all lines of communication open with him afterward and would ignore his inquiries about taking her to New York City. She carries sexual trauma, dislikes sexual activities and favors, is anorgasmic. She has tried various sizes from 3 to 9 inches with 20 men and all kinds of toys to no avail, and had sexual intercourse with me on average once a month. I tried not to complain because I love her, even though my ideal frequency for sexual activity is as much as possible. This issue caused problems in her previous situationship, where she cited it as the primary reason for their breakup, aside from him being emotionally abusive. She accused me of being emotionally abusive when she ended the relationship. Strangely, I had to block the man who brutally sexually assaulted her and caused her trauma on her Snapchat one day while I was visiting because she was inquiring if she could sleep with his girlfriend. He had asked if I had the genitalia to engage with his girl, and she left the conversation open. This was peculiar. I informed her that she could sleep with any woman while we were together, but it still felt odd to me. I moved up there 5 months later. For the first 2 weeks, she made constant complaints about every little thing, but it eventually subsided. Our first significant argument began here. In my opinion, we had an incredible New Year's Eve. I told her this once and she did not respond, so I assumed she did not agree, but that was okay. I invited her to watch the ball drop in Times Square, but she preferred a local celebration and I complied. We went to see our city's fireworks. The Uber driver was 10 minutes late and we only saw them for about 3 minutes. Still, at least we caught some glimpses from the warm car while being sheltered from the rain. Waiting for another Uber in the rain for 20 minutes was another matter, but we cuddled for warmth and shared one of her South Korean cigarettes. When we returned to my place, I ordered 100 of her favorite Asian food for us to share so she would have plenty of leftovers. We got intoxicated on soju and watched our favorite show. We watched the ball drop on Hulu and shared a kiss, then cuddled to sleep. It was bliss. The following day, however, was different. We had an enjoyable morning. We drove to the city's finest park to play soccer with friends. I spent 100 at Target on her and made her my favorite dish, shepherd's pie, using ingredients from the best butcher in my city while she napped. Suddenly, I had an idea. Our usual relaxing time at my place could feel dull since we often just cuddled, talked, played video games, and experimented with new food. Her friends whom I had met had made me feel great during our interactions thus far, so I thought it would be fun for her to post about me cooking shepherd's pie on her Snapchat story, and after we ate we could see people commenting things like, "Aw," sparking conversation before we went to sleep. I had no ulterior motives whatsoever. So I woke her from her nap to inform her that the food was ready and she came to get it. Before we ate, I asked her for a favor, if she could post the food on her story. She appeared quite hesitant. Reluctantly, she gave me a disheartened okay and recorded a video of the shepherd's pie with me giving a thumbs up while smiling. She captioned it, "Chef my name." I had hoped for something a bit more romantic, and perhaps I was out of line to think so, but I requested if she could caption it to reflect that her boyfriend made her shepherd's pie. She changed it to, "When he cooks you dinner," and told me, "I don't want to label you as my boyfriend on there." I was about to give up and suggest she forget the post, but I politely asked, "Could you please say something like, 'My boyfriend cooked me shepherd's pie'?" She angrily shared the post, took the food, and stomped off to eat without thanking me. I was somewhat taken aback and decided to join her. Typically, she does not express gratitude, but something felt different this time. I entered and told her I was uncertain why she was so upset over something so trivial, particularly after all the enjoyable experiences we had been sharing over the last 2 days and everything I had done for her. As I went past her to retrieve napkins, I noticed her furiously typing away on Snapchat and saw some deeply negative comments. We are usually very transparent with each other, so I inquired about what she was doing, and she revealed that she was complaining about me to her friend R. I had no idea she would speak negatively about me behind my back. She acknowledged she goes to R whenever she dislikes something I do instead of addressing it with me. I asked if I could see what she was discussing and she proudly handed me her phone. I can't recall verbatim what she communicated to R as it was admittedly traumatic for me to read, but it was along the lines of, "He's being overly controlling, he asked me to do this and I didn't want to." Fair enough, I didn't realize I was being controlling. However, R's response shocked me. R told her, "Girl, run, he sounds like a red flag, he sounds like all my exes put together. You're in a toxic relationship, and I abhor what this relationship is doing to you as a friend. He's a narcissist for using what you've done over the past 2 days to deflect, and I don't feel safe with him meeting my kids." Then sent her images of her children out of the blue to guilt trip her. I calmed myself for a moment. I advised her that she needed to confront R. I told her it was understandable if she thought I was a toxic red flag, but it was inappropriate for R to label me a narcissist and suggest I might be a danger to her children when the only issue I perceived in our relationship was an offhand comment, with no physical element whatsoever, something I would never do. At that point, she began to cry, asserting that I did not want her to be her own person, and then fled to the bathroom where she spent an hour. She removed the post from her story. We later ate the shepherd's pie while watching our favorite show, but the weight of this and everything else in the relationship began to overwhelm me, leading me to cry. She potentially felt somewhat guilty and expressed gratitude for the food, asking how I made it, attempting to discuss the show, etc. I did not reveal it, but I did not want to be close to her at that moment and felt considerably betrayed. I told her the following morning when she needed to return home that I felt strange since the previous night but hoped it would not affect our relationship, and I helped her carry her bags to her car, kissed her, and told her I loved her. The second major argument occurred when she asked me one day, "Would you still be in a relationship with me if I moved 3 hours away for 2 or 3 years for college?" At that point in our relationship, we had only been together for 6 months, so I replied no, clearly not, especially since a primary reason I relocated was to close the gap in our long-distance relationship. She was incredibly upset by my response, expressing disbelief that I would not follow her if that were to happen. This made me cry, which she seemed to resent for some reason. She shared my response with all her significant friends, returning proudly to tell me that I was a poor boyfriend for not committing to that because all her friends would do so. She claimed this included R, E, and A, among others. As I attempted to defend my perspective, which I believed to be rational and reasonable, and which my therapist confirmed, she contested my point for 3 continuous days to the point where I became exhausted, and my lips developed cold sores from the stress. This led to 2 moments that provided me with significant insight into our relationship. First, after she came to my apartment that weekend, while we lay in bed together, I communicated how distressing I found our 3-day argument to be and how traumatizing it felt. I asked her to cease discussing our relationship with R because, as it turns out, R's incessant prodding was what fueled the prolonged argument, almost as if she were using Jedi mind tricks to vent her frustrations regarding her own life into our relationship. She sobbed and explained it was due to childhood trauma stemming from feeling unheard, promising she would stop sharing our relationship details with R as far as I can tell. She has kept this promise, but I have not been able to verify it. And honestly, considering our most recent argument, I suspect she may have regressed and confided in R anyway. Secondly, and very importantly, this led me to a realization regarding E and A if they deemed me a bad boyfriend for a response that is normal and reasonable, namely not wanting to spend 2 to 3 years of my life with a girlfriend who lives 3 hours away after only 6 months together. It has solidified my belief that they are merely sycophants, except in extreme cases, and I have further substantiation from her recent outing with E. Our third significant argument, which ultimately ended the relationship for her, stemmed from a joke I made the other day, which I will recount as accurately as I can remember, coupled with my laughing face delivered over Snapchat. I stepped out of the barber shop at 4 p.m. and a homeless woman was outside. Upon seeing me, her eyes lit up, she tucked her hair behind her ear and said, "Good morning." I simply replied, "Morning." The humor lies in the fact that she greeted me good morning at 4 p.m. I love making my girlfriend laugh and I thought she would find this amusing. 8 months into our relationship, conversations can feel routine over text, and I often seek ways to vary our exchanges. Obviously, I am not attracted to the woman for reasons I believe would be deemed somewhat insensitive to share related to hygiene and health resulting from her circumstances, which should not need clarification. She reacted with anger, reminding me of the moment from 8 months prior when she imposed the rule against discussing other women in that way. Apparently, I violated this arbitrary, easily forgotten regulation by relaying the joke, and she reprimanded me for it, marking the second time I had done so. At this point, I experienced my first strong emotional reaction to our relationship aside from crying up to that moment. I FaceTimed her and exclaimed, "What on earth is wrong with you?" She stated she was in physical therapy, which she was, and I replied, "I do not care," prompting her to hang up. I pointed out that we had not fought in 2 months and that she was upset over a joke most people hyperbole. At least secure and rational individuals, in my opinion, would find humorous, equating it to nothing, insisting she was unnecessarily stirring the pot, seemingly craving drama, something I had criticized her for continuously. Days passed and I assumed it was inconsequential, at least to me. I was seated at the counter working. My job requires generating 5 leads a day with flexible time, so there are occasions I work until midnight to achieve that goal. I informed her of this. She then stated she planned to play pool with E while visiting, and I said that was fine. Upon her return, one of her first statements was, "I didn't invite you so I could talk about you to E," which surprised me, as I had thought she did not invite me since she was aware I needed to generate leads. This revelation upset me a little, so I asked her what she discussed, to which she replied, "Stuff." At that moment, I recognized that she was likely speaking negatively about me to E based on her body language, and while I remained calm and rational as I generally do, I pressed her for details about what was said. Of course, she had the right to refuse, yet I felt it was something I needed to know since it could potentially sabotage our relationship. She disclosed, and I cannot ascertain the veracity of everything apparent, that she spoke about the argument stemming from the joke and indicated that she concurred with E's perspective. We attended my girlfriend's game that evening, during which she invited E and A. She appeared distant toward me whenever we were with friends. I noted that she gave me a half hug instead of a full one and requested I wait in the car while she and E went inside Wawa later that night. Following the game, I observed that E was behaving differently towards me compared to before, judging by her actions and body language. Previously, she had been engaging and affectionate, offering a big hug goodbye, but now she expressed discomfort, and when I attempted to position myself closer, potentially hoping for a hug, she moved away. I congratulated E on her performance after the game, which she dismissed twice, claiming it was terrible. I had no idea what my girlfriend had divulged to her. I had gently asked her 3 times to refrain from bringing our issues to her friends, from sending them texts, and from weaponizing their opinions against me. I explained that if she continued this behavior, we would find ourselves trapped in a harmful cycle until her friends all despised me, since she was presenting them with every issue we faced, portraying me unfavorably without my perspective, and using this as a significant factor in ending the relationship. I suggested she could form her own opinions, engage with more neutral third parties, and contemplate the matter rather than airing our dirty laundry to her entire inner circle routinely. I recommended that if an issue was significant enough for her to believe it could end the relationship, she could share it with her inner circle, but any ranting or venting should be directed toward people I would never encounter, not those I would be expected to spend time with frequently. She refused. I also confessed to her that the sole changes I would wish for in the relationship would be her cutting R out of her life and ceasing to seek out friends over trivial disagreements. I expressed my desire for her to move in with me and share rent as soon as possible, and we could work towards having a child, though I recognized I would wait until she was ready to avoid being selfish since I understood she had her own goals. She had a tendency to label me as crazy and suggest I needed therapy whenever she was upset with me. When I finally sought therapy, my therapist validated all my crazy concerns and informed me that I was not the problem, she was. My therapist has 30 years of experience in couples counseling, while her therapist lacks experience in couples therapy and primarily specializes in nutrition. I received the following message 8 months into our relationship. I would like to take a break from our relationship this weekend. I need time to reevaluate and think about what has been going on between us. I would appreciate some time until at least Tuesday to discuss this with my therapist, as she has been on vacation and unavailable for conversation. Please do not come to my game tonight or the barbecue on Saturday. I cannot prevent you from attending the pickup on Sunday, but if you are going, please let me know and I will skip it. I do not wish to engage in back-and-forth discussions about this. This is a decision I have contemplated extensively, and I will not change my mind. Please respect my wishes. I gave her the space she requested. I sent a message on Wednesday at 5 p.m. It's past Tuesday, what's the news? She replied that she needed a few minutes to conclude her work and would FaceTime me. During the call in her car, she disclosed that she had made up her mind over the weekend but procrastinated sharing until that day. She read off a speech clearly prepared by her friends, asserting that we were incompatible and needed to part ways to focus on ourselves. I confronted her about the speech being crafted by her friends, similar to the earlier text, and she affirmed it, stating it was her decision. I proposed that we could continue the relationship if I refrained from critiquing or complaining, explaining that my intentions were solely to ensure we were both comfortable for the long haul, despite our differing views on commitment, noting that she had expressed commitment issues from our first date and was only seeking a few years together. She declared that my perspective was toxic and dishonest, arguing that we were both damaging ourselves by remaining together, contending that I approached scenarios from a logical standpoint while she interpreted them emotionally. After 8 months, she concluded that it was not working, asserting that I had hurt her feelings significantly due to the joke and my emotional outburst, prompting her wish to end the relationship. She indicated she had shared my side of the story, including aspects of this account with a guy named G, who had been my best friend since moving here but was known to her a year longer, and her therapist. She claimed that all but G described me as emotionally abusive. Am I? G simply stated he sided with her and exited the WhatsApp group. I inquired about everyone's thoughts regarding the shepherd's pie incident, excluding G. She informed me they all deemed my behavior controlling, manipulative, and overstepping her boundaries, believing her emotional response was justified because I had been excessively insistent. She acknowledged that she was incorrect about the college argument. She relayed that everyone asserted it was normal and healthy to share problems with friends. I endeavored to explain to her that she weaponizes their opinions against me, that she constructed all the issues that led to our breakup by choosing R over me and by using her friends as tools against her boyfriend, which impacted my willingness to socialize with them. She did not respond. I sought clarity on their thoughts regarding the emotional cheating situation, and nobody mentioned it at all, which led me to assert that this told me everything I needed to know. She is surrounded by yes men and enablers. I offered her the following advice. 1. Do not exaggerate by claiming she engages in sexual activity every 2 weeks ideally. Instead, assert that she has sex once a month, which is what I calculated, and to be honest about disliking sexual activity entirely and being anorgasmic, sharing this information with her next partner when appropriate. 2. I outlined the toxic cycle of weaponizing her friends against her boyfriend over every minor disagreement, indicating that she needs someone who will not challenge her, not someone who values themselves. 3. Not to engage in infidelity. And 4. To wait until she has resolved other aspects of her life, like her college decisions, before entering the dating scene, as it appeared to me that all she prioritized was soccer and friendships. She told me she did not believe there was anything wrong with me, stating I had a good heart but that we were toxic together, to which I partially agreed. I assured her that I would refrain from blocking her unless I saw a man in one of her social media stories or posts. It would greatly disturb me if she posted a man on her Instagram, since she had only ever shared my presence through stories, not in a permanent post. However, I made it clear that I would never block her phone number to keep communication lines open for the future, assuring her that I would not flood her with messages about wanting her back. I had already accepted the situation and wished only to maintain an open route of communication. She remained silent. I told her to pick up her belongings over the weekend, to which she agreed. I concluded with, "I love you, cheese girl," and finished our conversation with, "Guess what?" before hanging up, referencing our inside joke. If anyone has any thoughts, whether direct or otherwise, regarding this situation, I would greatly appreciate them. Thank you for reading. Story 2. Lost in a world of pain. At 30, I faced a terminal diagnosis for my mother and the loss of my cat. My father's cold words cut deep. "I won't pay for your funeral," he said, "while the universe keeps throwing misery my way. Is there an end in sight? I simply want to express everything I feel because I believe I have surpassed the limits of what I can manage. I am documenting the most significant events from my life. I could easily write a series of books if I detailed everything. So here comes a wall of text, formatted and extensive, so you do not have to trouble yourself with reading all of this and wasting your time if you do not wish to do so. I apologize if I have wasted your time. I did not have a happy childhood. We were not wealthy, we were not even middle class. I was diagnosed with pes planus. I do not like the term flat feet, and it is even worse in my native language at the age of 4, which has become quite severe over time. In my case, I likely will not be able to walk anymore by the age of 50. I currently wear orthopedic shoes and take 3 types of painkillers simultaneously because it hurts with every step if I do not. I have always had a more optimistic disposition and was quick to learn how to use a computer, beginning at 4 years old on my uncle's Windows 3.1 system. I started learning to read at 3, learned to write or rather type, and began counting at 4, rapidly becoming proficient in mental arithmetic and basic mathematics. I still vividly recall a lot of the chaos that ensued when our house burned down during that time. From the age of 8 onward, I was bullied. Initially, it was more childlike teasing, with children mocking me for my handicap, no one wanting to play with me due to my unattractive orthopedic shoes, which quickly taught me what self-confidence and feeling emotions truly meant. As my physical condition worsened due to negligent parenting, overfeeding, and a lack of encouragement for outdoor play or sports, my situation deteriorated as time went on. My dear mother also fell into depression due to marital issues, and at the same time my grandmother's health was rapidly declining. She passed away a year later when I was 9. I remember a year after that, a classmate shouting that he wished to be dead because no one cared about him and that he felt ugly and useless. That was me, the overweight, nerdy, soon-to-be bespectacled kid, fitting into all the stereotypes. My high grades and understanding of more complex subjects at a young age likely exacerbated the situation. Things did not improve during puberty. I was bullied for no reason other than my looks and weight. During a mandatory school run, I was humiliated in front of hundreds of people because of my size and disability. One boy yelled, while I limped through the beginning of the course, that he would have been terribly ashamed if we had shared the same name. 2 years later, my parents divorced after much verbal conflict. I once tried to be humorous at school, and that choice haunted me for an entire year and continues to do so because it shattered a significant part of my spirit. My grades plummeted and I hit rock bottom, having to repeat a year with no one expecting that to occur because no one cared enough to recognize the situation I was entering. By the age of 15, I was emotionally broken and physically crippled. Life was not easy on little money. It only got worse. I received a diagnosis of scoliosis, a 36-degree S-shaped curve painful enough to experience discomfort but not severe enough to require surgery. A year later, after enduring fat shaming, I successfully lost the weight that should have never been there, only for those pounds to return. I anticipated some kindness, some friendly faces, perhaps even a little appreciation, but I was merely a tool used to fix other people's computers and devices. People did not do much to convince me I was anything more than that. My family was particularly culpable in this regard. In the end, everything felt even more hopeless as I attempted to improve my life, only to become a regular weight consumer product. After completing high school, 6 of us graduated. Although I was of little significance to them, they had a certain level of respect because of my consistently high grades. I had switched courses, and it was a perfect match, and the fact that they could always depend on me, which meant they could take advantage of me without repercussions. There was not much else happening. They would not engage in conversation with me unless it was absolutely necessary, or if they wanted to play a game on my Samsung Galaxy 3 during study breaks. Even though they recognized my ability to display empathy and offer valuable insights, they likely had much better options for discussing such matters. We would stay in touch, certainly and absolutely. They all did except for me. I was the only one not invited to the party. So much for being valued for who I was. Deep down, I sensed this would happen, but I clung to a glimmer of hope. Perhaps I would have done anything to finally receive a bit of positive recognition, but of course that is not how it works. I would have one best friend throughout my school years at any given time. One of them eventually turned against me and assisted the bullies. The second one entered a relationship and promptly exited my social circle, leaving me in a state of pity. The third friend, the last one, with whom I am still in contact but not very closely, shares no interest with me, does not enjoy anything I appreciate, and vice versa. He is indifferent to what I say, but he often complains about his own problems, merely for the sake of having one person to chat with occasionally, and to fix some computers and phones, of course. To be honest, my iPods and headphones have been my true best friends. Anyway, a few more months passed, and I felt increasingly lonely and lost at that point. It was the start of 2012. Suddenly, I tried to raise my hopes of finding happiness through online dating. Not much happened in the first few weeks until a rather attractive girl I liked responded. A few days later, she somewhat ghosted me, but we reconnected, and at the age of 19, I experienced my first and only relationship. I even forgave her for using a slightly altered profile picture. She looked similar but different in real life. 17 months passed, 4 of those filled with pure joy. Then everything started to decline. Everyday life, which meant one disaster at a time, began happening again, some issues so significant they interfered with both of our mental health. I was verbally abused while managing a broken foot, unable to exert enough strength on my crutches to move for a prolonged period. An attempted suicide attempt by her occurred without warning later that year. On December 25th, in my mother's home Merry Christmas, I discovered she cheated on me during Easter Happy Egg Day. People constantly targeted her alongside me, further intensifying my anxiety. They say love is blind. Once those 17 months ended, I faced a quick succession of harrowing events. I was informed of our breakup via SMS, sent by her former stepmother, who called me an egocentric jerk for wanting to spend more time with her instead of only a few hours every few weeks. I was humiliated over my weight, referred to as a big sausage, and told she never really loved me, and she claimed to be sorry for that. She turned her 3 younger sisters, ages 4, 7, and 8, against me by lying to them, also calling me a big sausage in front of them, which was very painful to read. She had the audacity to leave my belongings on the doorstep with her new boyfriend, whom she began dating 10 days after our breakup, and who made her pregnant 3 weeks later. I received a message from an unknown number roughly 3 weeks after our breakup stating, "Her new boyfriend was already there the day after you broke up." My father took it upon himself to inform me of everything happening in her life since she ended our relationship, as he never removed her as a friend on Facebook. Obviously, I would not have felt compelled to contact her again, so I would not have known if he had not told me. He appeared proud as he relayed all the news to me. Then he looked surprised when I began to cry that Christmas evening. "Why are you crying again?" "Don't worry, things will get better soon." "Oh, by the way, have you looked for a job yet?" "I am completely serious." I was devastated, having lost the last remnants of my spirit. The one person I believed brought me love, appreciation, and hope had transformed into my greatest adversary, and I had to endure all the pain, along with additional pain that people willingly dumped on me, entirely alone. I had no assistance from doctors, no access to affordable mental health support for over 3 years, an awful family, and no friends remaining. Unemployment continued. I returned to therapy in 2016, facing internships, and everything felt stagnant in between. Then suddenly it was 2019. I approached the employment service, resulting in 1 month of free internship, and for the first time, a professional recognized my potential and engaged me through a 6-month learn at the workplace contract. 2 weeks before the contract was set to expire, I was just one positive evaluation away from a permanent position. Then COVID-19 occurred and life came to a halt. Suddenly, it was uncertain if I could continue with the contract. If it ended prematurely, I would not even qualify for protective benefits anymore. Stress was exploding in my mind. For once, the stars seemed aligned and they offered me the job. At that point, my social skills were disastrous. It took me an entire year to be able to converse with a colleague, albeit still filled with fear. Mandatory work from home did not help either. For a time, my social skills deteriorated instead of improving, and recovering from that would later prove impossible as I became increasingly isolated. COVID-19 began to lessen in severity through 2021. Just when things seemed to be improving, my beloved calico cat Minik passed away due to stomach cancer that August. 7 weeks later, after a fall, my mother was diagnosed with lung cancer during a checkup. In 2023, I decided to move out for practical reasons. My mother lived in social housing, and if she died, I would not be able to stay in the unit, leaving me homeless. It was also more affordable for her, as rent prices are calculated based on income. I was almost 30 at that time, so it felt like it was about time to move as well. I had not been the happiest individual, and I sensed she needed space to breathe. This led to yet another stressful period for both of us, and soon after I found myself alone. Within a month of moving out, my entire world began to unravel. I received the grim news that my mother had become terminally ill. My closest aunt's stepfather passed away on Christmas Day, which plunged me into a poor mental state. My younger nephew became depressed, and on New Year's Day I learned my other aunt was terminally ill. She died a few weeks later. Concurrently, my uncle faced a life-threatening illness combined with a severe shingles outbreak, while my other uncle was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. Two relatives committed suicide just one day apart. Another relative suffered a massive stroke, now in a semi-paralyzed state. I experienced periods of silence, often being alone for weeks unless someone required my assistance. I also helped my mother relocate to a new place better suited to her needs. My helpful father casually remarked in front of her and my mentally troubled aunt that he would not pay for my funeral if I died soon, implying I should get insurance. I dealt with problems in my own apartment, such as no hot water or heating for months during late winter, as my mother's condition worsened. I had no one to confide in about these life-altering experiences that unfolded over just 5 months. The stress heightened my anxiety and social issues, leading to my depression, which ultimately proved too much for my job. I went on sick leave for a month. The day I returned, I was laid off due to budget reasons. I suppose they wished to spare me somewhat. My last working day was the day I lost everything I had just 6 months prior. I stopped going to the gym, lost interest in my smart bike at home, and instead substituted healthy activities with days of couch surfing and aimlessly browsing online. I started to express my anger more openly towards people, especially my father, to whom I sent a few harsh messages addressing his narcissism. I struggled to find motivation for anything except my weekly trips to the local supermarket, doctor, or pharmacy. I have not had a visitor in my apartment since November 11, 2023, which coincided with my housewarming party. I often wonder if I exist for a reason. I constantly think that life cannot possibly become more miserable, only for it to prove me wrong, typically immediately following something relatively positive. However, those moments of slight happiness have vanished as well. There is no room to breathe or any way to replenish my spirit. I have squandered my entire life serving others, getting mistreated or ignored in return, being nothing more than a bubble of air that still manages to impede others. The eternal burden controlled by two paths, a long one to enter and a short one to exit. This cycle continues to repeat endlessly. Last month, I began a job and mental health counseling program. The kind woman who conducted my intake for job counseling informed me that I was on the verge of a burnout, that any additional pressure could cause me to break, and that I was not being dramatic because what I have endured is genuinely severe. I have constantly felt that I was exaggerating and lacked the right to complain because others suffer in worse ways, and many people have told me to consider those individuals instead of being selfish. In reality, I have been building up extreme pressure and should not have to continue suppressing it as a reward. That long overdue moment of someone understanding my feelings was the first sense of peace and rest I have experienced in at least 4 years. However, I still wonder if it may be too late because things are certainly not going to improve anytime soon. Therapy might become overdue too. I will need to get on the waiting list and such. The therapist will probably assign blame to me for most issues, just like people who believe I possess a poor character again, including my father, who think it is normal to be rejected consistently and that I am allowed to simply exist and keep quiet. My mother unexpectedly passed away from her illness 2.5 weeks ago, on March 26, 2025. We were scheduled to go to the hospital on the 28th for radiotherapy due to a metastasis in her leg. Everything else organs was fine. I am a hollow soul trapped in a broken body. I have genuinely lost all my willpower to fight. I do not want this to persist for another 40 years. I am not prepared to age into a wheelchair, only to reach a point where I fade away into ashes without receiving even a moment of recognition or concern. I am utterly exhausted. I have made mistakes too. Everyone makes mistakes. I am not too proud to acknowledge that fact. Perhaps I have said things that hurt others and may have misunderstood their feelings at times. I certainly will not claim to always do the right things. However, I am not sure I deserve all this suffering because I am genuinely trying my best and truly hope I am doing the right things to be a decent human being and to demonstrate that I am somewhat worthy of being alive and content. I have done everything for everyone, but I have never received the most basic respect that would affirm my humanity. I have encountered plenty of criticism for everything I have done or failed to do because, most of the time, I did not make any mistakes and have never intentionally harmed anyone. I bear all the blame. It is not fair. I wish I had never been born. I sincerely apologize if I have wasted your time. Story 3. My friend's confessions left me dizzy. I just want to enjoy every second I have next to who I love. After months of him flirting with my crush Maria, I can't shake the feeling Chris might see me differently now. Am I losing my mind or is there hope? Hello everyone, this is my first post of this nature. I never anticipated reaching this point, but here I am. I apologize in advance as this is essentially teenage drama on my part, so I'm sorry for that. Also, English is not my first language, so please excuse any errors. This is going to be a long post, so please bear with me. Before I address the issue at hand, I need to provide a brief explanation of past events for context, fake names. A 19 male, who is autistic, used to have feelings for a friend of mine 19 male named Chris some time ago. I made every effort to flirt with him, but he did not understand until we explicitly told him that it was flirting. He is also somewhat autistic. My friend Maria 18 female was aware of this because I foolishly confided in her during a moment of vulnerability while we were out drinking. We are not North American. Eventually, while returning from an outing with Chris, he confessed to me that he had feelings for Maria ever since we officially formed our friend group. However, Maria had a boyfriend who was somewhat toxic, often guilt-tripping her and being violent towards others though not towards her. It was safe to say that their relationship was failing. One day she mentioned to us that she had a dream about Chris, yes, that type of dream, and after that Chris became hopeful. Although he did not outright admit his feelings, he told me in private and I was already struggling with the situation. This revelation made things even worse. One day we had a call where they discussed the possibility of her breaking up with him. As the conversation progressed, they both became increasingly flirtatious while I was on the call, slowly dying inside. After the call ended, I couldn't hold back my tears. While he was not the first person I liked, out of 150 people I interact with, only 10 pique my interest for friendship, and only one has ever had the potential for a romantic connection. So suffice it to say, he was a rare individual with whom I had connected, and he was not interested in me. The next time we hung out, we were at Maria's house, and they were already being romantic with each other until we left. I accompanied Chris home afterward, and in a moment of weakness, I confessed my feelings for him and expressed how much I appreciated him and wanted to be someone he could rely on in his life. He revealed that he already knew about my feelings because I had mentioned someone important to me previously, and he figured it was him. He did not outright reject me, but it was implied. I was a sobbing mess at that moment. He tried to comfort me, but while I was crying, he was messaging Maria, who was aware of my confession and my tears. He did not give me any sort of attention. He owes me nothing, but come on, I am your friend who has never been vulnerable before. Every minute he would come around and give me a hug while I sobbed, then return to messaging her. Eventually, I composed myself and returned home after reaching a better state of mind. Being young and emotionally underdeveloped, I struggled to cope with their constant displays of affection toward each other, which were quite off-putting for someone unaccustomed to such behavior. For some time, we had lingering tension because I was finding it difficult to accept everything. Maria even spoke to me privately because she was unhappy with how she was making me feel excluded and upset, knowing my feelings for Chris. At that point, I recognized that I was competing with her for Chris's attention and affection, so I lied and told her I was fine with her being with him and that I would manage. After that, I pushed my feelings down as far as possible, but they occasionally resurfaced. After some back and forth following my birthday, they texted me to ask if I wanted to hang out with both of them, which was undoubtedly pity on her part, so I agreed since I was feeling lonely. Long story short, during that outing, he insulted a special interest of mine, and I became very upset because it was something that had helped me through difficult times in my life, and he knew it. After that, I immediately went home and began ignoring him, which was challenging since we participated in the same activities together. It's a very niche hobby, so I won't mention it here. After a while, my anger persisted, and I decided to cut him out of my life for good. I planned to communicate my decision in person. Maria knew about my intentions, so she messaged me urging me to reconsider. Eventually, I decided to talk to him. It was a very awkward situation, but I apologized for my actions and he apologized for his. We ended up reconciling, but the friendship was not without its difficulties. They repeatedly ended and rekindled their situationship 6 times in just 3 months. Everyone was exhausted by their on-again, off-again relationship because it was evident that he was merely a rebound for Maria, as she was uncertain about what she truly wanted. Other issues arose that threatened our friend group, but the worst part was over. Now, regarding the present situation, my issue is that recently Chris sent me some late-night messages which I will summarize. They roughly stated, "Hey, I know we haven't had any interesting conversations lately, but I enjoy having your attention. Even though you are that reserved person, you have always supported me. Thank you, bro. I couldn't ask for more. I don't know what the future holds, but I hope to experience it by your side." I was obviously confused, so I asked why he sent the messages. He replied, "I have been reflecting on life recently." Then he continued, "I am sorry for not fully appreciating what is right in front of me." He began discussing how he does not show enough respect for me and that he has been bitter with everyone, including himself. After that, he mentioned that he should begin to cherish the happy moments he shares with me and our friends. The next message addressed my response, stating that even though he can be somewhat of a jerk, I still forgive him because I care about him. He wrote, "Thanks, bro. I will never let myself distance from you. You are one of the people who makes me consider who I could truly be." He added, "I am really grateful for you. I love you, bro." After some playful banter and reassurance, he claimed he was feeling more emotional than before, stating, "I just want to enjoy every second I have by the side of the person I love." When I asked what prompted this sudden shift, jokingly suggesting he might have an illness, he replied, "No, but I have lived a life devoid of meaning for so long and now it finally has a purpose. It is something I should reflect upon and cherish. Lately, I have been contemplating what truly brings me happiness." That concluded our conversation, but he has never acted this way in the time I have known him, and his way of communicating seemed unusual. Following that, I began to notice that our interactions on other platforms had become a bit peculiar. We have been reacting to each other's messages with hearts and other similar gestures, and he even complimented me when I shared a rhyme I had written. This has led me to wonder if he has developed feelings for me. He identifies as straight, yet there is an underlying queer vibe that many, including myself, have sensed. The confusion only deepens now that it seems a girl has started showing interest in him, and he is conversing with her on Instagram. While he is obviously straight, he admitted that he did not feel anything for her and had not even intended to pursue her. Another friend allegedly pressured him to message her because he was either scared or uninterested. I am unsure. So, Reddit strangers, am I overthinking this? It seems unusual for someone to express those kinds of feelings to a friend, and he has definitely been giving me a lot of attention whenever I message him. I plan to meet up with another friend of mine tomorrow to discuss this situation, and if anything positive occurs, I will try to provide an update. Summary: my friend has been sending me strange text messages, including statements like, "I am sorry for not appreciating what is right in front of me."